Welcome to the Reality Check live from Mesa, Arizona. Did you think that I wasn't coming on? Did you think that I would abandon you? This is not the Red for Ed movement, so I will not abandon you. I am here to do my service. What that service is, it's debatable amongst many people. But many stuff to go over today. So Debbie Lesko won the 8th district today. She won by 6 points. Democrats, the only party that can claim a loss is a win. Oh, she only lost by 6 points, and Trump won by 3 touchdowns last game. Whatever, you lost. Who cares? Nobody cares. It's a temporary election for a seat for a few months. At the end of the day, irrelevant. I mean, seriously. But as so goes forth. I mean, what's really important today is why do they need my name when I'm buying Claritin D? When I could buy a burner phone, I don't have to give them a name. You know? What commits more crimes, Claritin D or the burner phone? I'd say the burner phone. Oh, I know. You'll hear these fools. Like, when I go in and I buy it, and I'll always say it's just silly. Like, I don't understand it. Why you need my name. And I know it has nothing to do with the people that work there. They could care less. But when we're talking about the law purpose of this, and I'm saying, like, what do you need my name for when I'm buying Claritin D? Seriously, like, I don't care. It's just a waste of time. I have to, whatever. I mean, I understand they want to protect their ass at that point, I get, but I can't buy it twice in 1 week. It's like, who really cares? And they're like, well, you could be making drugs with it. What drug is it that you make with it, right? I mean, think about it. The drugs that are made are cheaper than the actual Claritin D. So you're really going to buy something expensive to make a cheaper drug? No, you won't. So it's just total stupidity. Total stupidity. You're not going to buy pills that are a few bucks a pop to make a drug that's cheaper than the pills. And they're like, well, what about the people say, well, those people that steal aren't going to show you their ID when they're stealing anyway. So the only person you're IDing is the people who's actually legally buying it. Enough said with burner phones and Claritin D. We'll throw that one in the trash. Let's move on. So we know, obviously some of the audience isn't from Arizona, but in Arizona the big thing is Red for Ed. So we get statewide movement. They want to increase funding from K through 12 education. First it was really they wanted to raise. Now that they've been offered a 20% raise with 12, I'm sure a police and firefighter would love to have a 20% raise. Heck, they'd love to have a 5% raise. Like, remember when Phoenix did the police then, right? They made them take a pay cut, and then they charged the citizens of Phoenix tax on food, 2%, to give us more police support. And they did less. They haven't hired many officers. They've cut the force. They cut their pay. And the tax that was supposed to be temporary was permanent, obviously. Or, yeah, maybe it ends in 10 years from now. Whichever. So Phoenix scammed us like that. But here it is. You have the teachers, 20% raise. They've turned it down. Even offered up to 24 through the House. Funding that had nothing to do, that they were told that people wouldn't be fired. And I mean, I understand you want more and stuff, so give up some of the raise and get some more funding for other stuff. I mean, I'll go through it later, more of what some of the problems are, but I can't imagine that a school, the actual school itself, not the teachers, but the school itself would be in agreement with a lockout. I mean, is it that the school has no guts, that can't stand up and say, no walkout? I just don't understand it. You're there for the kids. That's supposed to be the main goal. And so, I mean, I can't understand that. And they'll say that, oh, the staff told us they're going to do this and that. As a leader, as any team, you know, you tell your team, no, that's not acceptable. I can support you in this and that. I don't know, if you're managing a baseball team, right? And somebody throws at one of your players and your team said, you know, we're going to go out and we're going to start punching their players in the face. As a manager, you say, you know, I understand you're upset. I understand you want to punch them in the face, but you cannot do that. And here's the consequences if you do that. You will not do that. And, you know, that's pretty much how you set some law and order there. You don't say, well, you know what? I see your point. You're upset. Yeah, let's just go out and punch them in the face. So that's what these principals need, to have law and order and show them you can support them. You can say, I definitely agree you should get more money. I've been in situations where I understand. I've had employees that wanted more money, and I've tried my hardest to get them that money. And sometimes it works out, and sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes you get them money, and they're still unhappy. I understand that, but there are things, you tell them they have to make decisions. So you have schools that they say they're keeping the school open, but they're really, what they're doing is they're just don't want to extend the school year, which I understand that, but they're not even going to have regular curriculum for the kids. They're planning on having little coloring fests and nonsense that's not really educating the kids. So the kids are getting punished because of teachers walking out, because they know if they close the schools, they have to have 180 days per school year for it to be a valid school year. So they'll bring in some substitutes and whatnot. And now that's where things can get hairy. Are the substitutes going to be harassed by regular teachers? Are the parents going to be bugged? Are these people going to try to get, tough? Are they going to try to get in the way? Are they going to be nasty? Are they going to make things more difficult? The kids have to see this and deal with this and put up with it. Like when the strikers were at the grocery store and you try to go in and they're mouthing off to you when you want to shop somewhere. I mean, is that what's going to happen? I hope not. So there's a lot of other factors in this, and then I hear what, if you keep your kid home, it won't count as an absence for truancy. But it is truancy. If you're keeping a kid home, it's truancy. I don't know. There's no other way to put it. But, what do I know, right? I'm just somebody who's clueless, right? What do I know? Now, why is the school, again, supporting? I understand you supporting your teachers, but it's an arm of a political party, Redford. Let's get serious. They can say it's not. It's Teachers United. But teachers who didn't partake around the area have said they've been pushed aside. Their views have not been heard. They've been told they have to be part of it. The pressure's been put on them. Why? Why are you putting on pressure? If they don't believe in striking, they shouldn't be forced to strike. And I know they're not really being forced to strike, but when you're putting pressure on all your, everybody who works with you who could make your life miserable, it's kind of like almost sexual harassment, right? When your boss is putting on the pressure, and you do something with your boss, well, you didn't have to. Well, when they can make your life miserable and make you work and maybe fire you and you don't have, it's hard for you to get a job, or you've told somebody and they really didn't do anything and something like that happens. I mean, that's the same here. You're putting pressure on people. We send our kids to charter schools to get away from the liberal bullshit that they teach in the public schools. We want them to learn about American respect and not, the liberalism. And now here we have people that are supporting this. Stay neutral. Stay neutral. Your job as the principal, a leader of a school, is to stay neutral. Yes, I want you guys to get raises. I want everyone to make more money. And I understand this, but you can't abandon the kids. I mean, you just can't. You can't say it's for the kids when you're abandoning the kids. I'm sorry. I don't agree with it. Because it's not for the kids. How are you helping kids? And we'll go into that a little bit. But, if you look at Arizona school spending, right? They're going to say how down it is, how this it is compared to this state, and teachers aren't getting paid. And absolutely, they should get paid more. But when you're comparing it to California, the cost of living is 100% different. Stop with the nonsense. When you put in nonsense stuff like that, it just sounds silly. You think about it, from like 2008 to 2017, the spending on instruction, for the kids has actually gone down from 2008 to 2017. Now, the spending on instruction has actually gone down about 4%. Spending on administration, though, has gone up. It's gone up 1.2%. So are we really caring about the kids? Is it for the kids? The spending per student is over $8,000 in 2017, over $8,000. Now, people say it's not much. There's some states that spend $20,000. There's states with not very many kids. And there are states that actually have better results. So look at where our education level is. It has improved. It has improved under our current governor. So he's doing something right, and education seems not to want to trust him. But for education purposes, as far as educating our state better, he's doing a good job of it. But if you look at spending, now, annual school spending per child, the United States of America is the only country, and this is a few years back, but they're the only country that spent over $7,000 per kid. And you'll say, well, yeah, of course, look at our education system compared to everybody else. Literacy rate, though, of kids 15 years and older, we weren't first, we weren't second, we were third. Comparing, about a dozen of the top countries. And, this math scores, where was the U.S. at? We're behind Japan, we're behind, Australia. We're down the bottom of the list. Basically, Mexico and Brazil were the only two countries out of the top 12. Russia, Ukraine, France, all of them are ahead of us. Finland, all ahead of us. Look at science. So we were at 9th out of 12, right? Australia was better than us. Canada was better than us in science scores. Finland, France, right? United Kingdom. All these countries did better than us in science test scores. So we're spending the money, you can see it's there, but we're not getting the results. Now, is it the teachers per se? Is it the allocation of the money per se? In Arizona, I know definitely it has to do with the allocation of the money. It's just, we're spending money. You can go to like state auctions and look and see what schools are auctioning off, like even from the universities on down, trickle on down. You'll see $10,000 worth of ink on a pallet. Those things are $50 to $100 per cartridge, just sitting there unopened. How does that happen? And they're auctioning off for $100 because that stuff's outdated now. It's worthless. Even the people who buy it to resell don't get much money out of it. You can make money when you're buying it at that price, but think about it. These things are $50 to $100 a pop. Schools are buying them. They're sitting there. They're not opened, and then it's time to change your printer. It's people lack of knowledge of ordering, and it's the money allocation. You'll see they'll have this much amounted for printers, this much amounted for ink, and then this much amounted for. So you can't buy a pencil, you can't buy a pad, you can't buy a calculator, but you can buy $1 million in ink. Those things got to go. The money's got to be able to spend freely across the board. And we can talk about the Red for Ed leaders. People will say, well, they can have an opinion, and there are people on both sides of this, and blah, 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 blah. I understand that. I get what you're saying. Yes, they can have opinions. Yes, well, they didn't say this when they were Red for Ed, but just look at the leaders. Look at the people you have, the Derek Harris, the Noah Carvalho. Look at these people, the way they've attacked the governor since before Red for Ed, and then they joined on to this Red for Ed movement. You have people like Derek Harris saying, our governor is dumber than yours. Just calling the president an MF, racist MF, calling him horseshit. This is what you got. This is somebody who's doing something for the kids. Really? Let's see. How did Derek Harris describe Ronald Reagan? Still dead. This is somebody who's teaching kids a lesson. This is a leader for kids. I'm sorry, it's not. It's just somebody who has an anger problem. It's somebody who wishes harm amongst people. That's what he wishes. What's he going to tell these kids? Your parents are stupid because they don't agree with him. This is not somebody that's a leader of anything. But yet, it's one of the leaders for Red for Ed. And like I said, those aren't his opinions. But they are his opinions. Trust me. If you knew somebody was racist and everything they said was racist, and then they come here, I'm not going to treat anybody differently because I said that when I was a private citizen. Makes no sense, right? You have the same thing with Noah Carvalho, teacher, part of the leadership for Red for Ed. I mean, he was connected with many people, like Amanda Littman, Democrat campaign, who was the email director for Hillary Clinton. But, he was a candidate concierge, right? He was one of the people who wanted to build a Democratic bench for the future. So, I mean, he was a campaign organizer to knock on every door for Bernie Sanders, right? But no, he has no, whichever. It's one of the leaders of the party. It's just basically, I mean, it's what it was. They wanted 20% raise, which is a crazy amount to ask for. You'd never think you get that, and it was handed to you. And now you're still complaining. Not once did I hear anybody say, we'll give up some of the raise to support some of the schools. I mean, can you imagine? I mean, think about it. If it's for the kids, why are they getting punished? It's confusing to them. They don't know. And they're brainwashing the kids. Why are they even talking about it in the school? My 6-year-old's had a daily lecture on this. He's convinced he should be wearing red. He doesn't even know what for. Yes, for the teachers, No idea what it's for, really. Why is this a subject in school? You want to do it? It's just indoctrinating your kids. I would love to be invited to school. I'll talk to them about red for ed. I have no problem giving my opinion, as you can see here. And I can put it to a kid's level. I have no problem. I might not have a college degree, but I've taught many classes. I volunteered at many schools. So like I said, if it's for the kids, why are they getting punished? If it's for what's right, why are the parents getting punished by having to stop work? And then one of the key things is they don't want tax cuts. What does tax cuts have to do with any of this stuff? So I can't get a break on taxes because of what? What does that have to do with schools? Oh, I know they want more money, but there's plenty of ways. There's taxes they can put, like we know on marijuana and that industry. They get lottery tax, they get property tax. There's plenty of money to go around. It just needs to be allocated right. But imagine, like I said, the police would be thrilled for such a raise. So imagine if, though, the police decided to do the same strategy. They're going to walk out. They're just going to walk off the streets, not go to any calls. Sorry. What if daycare workers decided they want to walk out? Just close down the daycare. Sorry. Oh, well, you have to lose your job because there's nobody to watch your kid. Too bad for you. We're going on strike. And imagine if your cashiers decided to walk out in your local grocery store. And it's happened before, but imagine they did. How PO'd these people would be. How mad. You ever see them wait in a line? Half of them have a conniption fit if they have to wait, I mean, God forbid the cashiers walk off the job. I think there's a good amount of money, and I think we'll get money. Nobody was complaining when Janet Napolitano was sucking money out of the school system because she made the state bankrupt. She came into the state as governor with a huge surplus of money. She devoted nothing extra to education, even though she's for education and for the people. And she pulled money out. I wouldn't say pulled money, but her bad politics and bad policies hurt Arizona so much that we lost so much money between educating extra kids that shouldn't have been in our system, for people who didn't pay into the system, and on and on and on, and made this state broke. And now we've had to pull it back out, and now things are getting better, and that's how we're going to pay for some of this teacher stuff, but that's not good enough. Not only do people want to raise, but they want to dictate where it comes from and make excuses because this isn't where they want it to come from. And like I said, at the end of the day, the money needs to be allocated right. You look around here, go around to the schools. You'll see some schools have how many vehicles? You can go to your local school and you see 10 or 20 vehicles. It's not the charter schools as much, it's the public schools, right? Go to a public school. Why do they need 20 cars? Why do they need 3 pickup trucks? Why do they need 4 service trucks? Why? How about look around the schools? How did this school get a pool? How did this school get a new building and another new building? And you know what? I've been in those schools and I ask, what's this new building for? Is there an influx of students? Oh, that's administrative office. There's one right down the block from me. There's one a few miles away. There's another school and another one. And that's just what you see. You see all these new buildings in the schools popping up. But they're so poor, how do they have money to build these schools? And then none of them are for the students. It's all for more administration. How does that help the kids? Oh, great, there's a brand new building here where the admin is. That's awesome. Wow, that's great. That's really helping the kids out. We need another 10 guidance counselors to do nothing for the kids. So the money, some of it's already there. It just needs to be allocated better. But what we have here, we have a lot of preachers that don't look around. They're criticizing pretty much a faction of the government, but they're not looking at their own leaders. Notice how there's no comment on administration. And like I said, we have a lot of preachers, and you look at the admin, and they came to do good, and they stayed to do well. And well they do. And you should all know what that means. Doesn't have much of a hidden thing. It's pretty much straight out there. You look at what kind of cars they're driving, and man, they're doing well. But we can move on from that. So, but like to sum it up, I'm okay with teachers getting a raise. I hope they get a good raise. And I hope there are more supplies. I hope the money's streamlined better, and we can influx some more money, and I have no problem with that. And we can get the class sizes down by only having to educate the people that we're responsible for, and not taking on extra burdens that we obviously can't afford, and nobody ever talks about that. So that's the summary on that. Now, let's see, where can we go from here? We have hundreds of things to talk about. We can do our classic story turned liberal. We can go through, I don't know. Let's see here. Oh, we can get a student's point of view, which I thought was here's a good one. Now, I know we hear all this stuff, and all the kids are told this is great, but here's a little story that I read today. It's a girl, and she was, her name was Lillian Santa Cruz, and she said that when she first heard about the walkout, that she felt like it was an extremely selfless decision made by the state's most selfless people. So this is an 8th grader who, instead of getting excited about her 8th grade graduation, is worried if she can graduate at all. I feel like we got on the bad side of it. That's what Lillian said. And here's why. Her school is Copperwood Elementary. They'll be closing Thursday and Friday because of the walkout. Their 8th grade graduation is still scheduled for May 22nd, but she said that these are mandatory days at the end of the school year. Students have to attend to get their diplomas. Those must be made up after the graduation ceremony on specific days the school's decided on. And Lillian won't be there. They have a planned and paid vacation on the days when the makeups are scheduled to be. Lillian said the school hasn't offered any other solution to those mandatory days, but said she knows several classmates who are in the same bind. A lot of her friends won't be there for the makeup days, so they've pretty much missed those days of learning. She said she supports teachers getting a raise, but feels the walkout has gone too far, forcing families to scramble and find childcare this week. We're old enough to stay home, but I do have friends whose parents are taking off because their siblings are not old enough to stay home alone. You know, and kind of goes on a little bit more, but it's nice to actually see even an 8th grader gets the concept of that. You can do things, but it doesn't need to be this. You know, so let's see, what else do we want to do? Okay, let's get away from the red for ed because, you know, it's not really a positive thing. Unfortunately, it's been turned into a pretty negative thing by this whole, you know, strike thing. They're doing it on a Thursday, you could tell, because they figure if they get through 2 days, it's not too bad. And they're probably going to see how the water is. And if people are unhappy with them, then they'll probably go back Monday. But, you know, it's going to be a point of no return at some point. Let's see, we had James Comey's book, right? You know, there's one thing in it that I was reading about that not much coverage on. There's a point where he talks about Michael Brown was not surrendering when he got shot, and the DNA evidence was that he assaulted the officer and tried to take his gun. Nobody's talked about that. I know with the other Comey stuff, I mean, still, though, you figure somebody would say something like that. And then, of course, we have the awesome people who Planned Parenthood, right? Should not be their name. So they filed a lawsuit in Indiana over the state law's requirement that abortion clinics be inspected annually for health and safety issues. Now, just that first sentence, obviously they're filing a lawsuit against it because they don't want it to be inspected annually. That is amazing that an abortion clinic only gets inspected once a year. I mean, that's crazy. I've worked in restaurants that get inspected more than that a year. So you tell me a restaurant which serves food to people, and if you get somebody sick, you know, that's not going to be good for your business. So most businesses try to stay on the up and up because that's the worst thing for your business. Somebody gets sick, somebody dies, something like that. And here's a place who performs medical procedures which not only kill people, but can kill somebody else. And they only get inspected once a year for health and safety. That's already low and amazing in itself. But here it is, Planned Parenthood, for the babies, for the people, for the family, is against that. So they're saying, once again, Indiana politicians are barging into the exam room with irrational demands and intrusive requirements. Yeah. So when are they going to stick up for the ACLU, of course, the anti-American ACLU, filed the lawsuit on behalf of Planned Parenthood. So how come the ACLU hasn't filed some lawsuit for the restaurants who are twice a year, they're barging into the restaurant, making irrational demands and intrusive requirements? In addition to a provision requiring annual health inspections of abortion clinics, Indiana law also requires medical providers who treat women for complications due to the abortion procedures to report patient information to the state. That is unique and burdensome. So you have a complication to a medical procedure, and they just want to make sure it's reported, and that's unique and burdensome. Really. So they don't want to have to report anything. They don't want you to check if it's clean. They don't want you to check if it's safe. No thanks. Can you imagine if that was the way it was for hospitals? Yeah, we're just not going to have any inspections. And I know you want to know if somebody had a complication and almost died, but we're really not going to have that on record either. Matter of fact, we're just going to stop doing paperwork in our hospital, and we're just going to play operation. And if buzz, oops, we did the wrong thing, oh well, we're not going to have any documentation on it, so sorry. Isn't that unbelievable? Planned Parenthood, who took over $500 million of taxpayer funds last year to provide health care and made $21 million. So why aren't we getting the $21 million they made? Why do they need funding from us if they're making profit? So it's a for-profit organization, Planned Parenthood. We're funding it, and now they're going to demand that they don't get inspected. Or maybe they'll get inspected on their terms. Yeah, you can inspect us after we close on a Friday night or something. Hold on, we got to throw out the baby parts before you come in. Please, don't look at this bag. Nothing to see here. A head, a leg. Well, we're selling that down the block, so we're not actually throwing it away, so don't write us down for that violation. Well, that seems like a great idea. Thanks. Yeah, no thanks. Again, you learn Planned Parenthood and ACLU are detrimental to America. So now we have, this week, of course, Devin Nunes came out, and he talked about how there was no evidence to even start the Trump-Russia collusion smear campaign from the dossier. So basically, it's, a Hillary Clinton dirty trick. We know. So Hillary wanted to spread the, narrative that Donald Trump was owned by the Russians, him being in Putin's pocket, and she didn't have any evidence, so she needed to make up some. So they probably hand-fed this story to Steele their fake team, and furthered it. And then these people, pretty much information laundering, right? Not the money laundering that she does in her Hillary Clinton Foundation. But her and her buddies made up the story. Then they hired Fusion GPS to, quote unquote, find the allegations as a result of their research, but it was already something that was handed to them. No evidence of anything, nothing actually verified. And then they had to make it look good. So her buddies, Hillary's buddies, after they handed it off to Fusion GPS, they began putting it in the news media. Now, that's a trick that Obama did a while back. If you remember, he planted little stories, fake stories in the media to see if the actual idiot reporters would be like, whoa, that sounds real. I'll just write it down because they told us this. And just go with it, not check any sources or facts. And so that's what was planted before. And so Hillary's team did the same thing, planning this out. They then handed it off to the FBI. And no intelligence, of course, nothing ever verified. And now they had a probe against Trump's campaign. And remember, it started with the Carter Page. Carter Page, who was an American citizen who not only helped get Russians arrested, all of a sudden they were going into his stuff and tapping him. And still there was anything about Trump that was illegal or anything. And they misrepresented the Steele report, the dossier to the FISA court, just to smear Trump during the election so Hillary could beat him. And then it also would be a backup plan if, God forbid, Hillary didn't win. And you saw that Strzok and Page were talking about that. So they knew if Trump would win somehow, they can get him impeached or make him null and void, as they've kind of tried to do at this point. It hasn't totally worked, but it's definitely slowed down Trump's agenda because this cloud is always over his head. And James Comey, who was loving the scheme, and he couldn't wait to get in front of Congress and talk about how he gave the memos to his friend, and now we need a special counsel to investigate Trump for the Russia collusion, even though he had no evidence of it. But he was just excited to help out. And, so soon it comes out that Michael Horowitz, the DOJ inspector, will be going to the House Oversight Committee. And you will see that there's going to be a lot of stuff you'll find out, and it's not going to be good. I'm going to tell you, it's not going to be good for a bunch of people. And they're going to have to almost get to the point of where they're going to have to start singing on each other. You might see McCabe sing on Comey because Comey's tried to throw him under the bus. It's going to be who could throw each other under the bus first. You saw Comey's memos come out, and part of it's redacted. So that means there was classified information in there. So he's already in trouble if we have equal justice. They showed nothing to warrant a special counsel. It's been literally 2 years that this whole thing's been going on, and they'll try to say, oh, Mueller only had almost 1 year. No, it's been almost 2 years this thing's been going on from the start, even before Mueller got there, and still nothing. They've taken every shot they can. Now it's go to the lawyer's office. If they had something, it would be out in the news. They leak faster than the Titanic did, and yet there's nothing because they have nothing. So, I'm telling you, McCabe will start singing. All of these guys are going to start singing. And somebody's going to go to jail, hopefully, for leaking some stuff. And the media is going to try to cover it up or make excuses because the media knows that it's going to come back on them, too. Some of the documents that will come out will probably show that the media got paid to pass along these stories or knowingly pass along fake stories to fuel this speculation. And they knew what it was. They knew what the scam was. They were told, just be a good boy, help us out, and pass the story along. But what do I know, right? We'll just see I'm right. And then I got to talk on this part, Trey Gowdy. You hear men say, and she looks pretty from far, but far from pretty. And that is the story, once again, of Trey Gowdy. He sounds great when you listen to him talk, and he's doing this and doing that, and he's fighting for justice, and da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And then it comes to where Trey Gowdy's, it's like it's like junk circling down the drain, like, yeah, it's gonna go, it's gonna drain on, be rid of that trash. And then there he is, Trey Gowdy putting the plug in it to stop the trash from going down the drain. He looks great. You hear him, sounds great. And then Trey Gowdy, like today, again, when it's time to turn up the screws, he does nothing. He settled today for a third of the documentation they have on some of this fraud. It was supposed to come over 1.2 million pieces of evidence, documents, papers, and he settled for 400,000. Like, you don't need to settle for anything. It's yours. It's the American people. We're supposed to be able to get the facts from this. Freedom of information. Why are we settling? And you're going to settle for, you have a department which lied, which was dishonest, and you're going to settle for the four. I mean, this is just like the Hillary Clinton investigation all over again. She'll let you know what email she wants to turn over. Would any citizen in America be able to knock on the door? It's the police. Yeah, we have a warrant. We're here to search your place. Oh, hold on, officer. I got to tidy up a few things. No, you're going to put your hands up and you're going to stay right here. Oh, no, officer. I'm sorry. I didn't mean I have to tidy up a few things. I have to kind of shred some stuff that you can't see. Oh, okay. Take your time, sir. We'll be waiting out here. Let us know when you're ready. No, never happened. Sorry. But yes, it's happening here again. So that's what I say. Trey Gowdy, pretty from far, but far from pretty, right? Now, in ridiculous news, and this one's great, and so you had a woman who was traveling from Paris to Denver last week on Delta Airlines. They passed out apples during the flight, French apple, I guess. Who knows? She was in Paris when she started. And she wasn't really hungry. You take the apple, throw it in your carry-on bag, eat it later, or whatever. You throw it when you get out. So I guess that was her mistake. She didn't even get to enjoy her apple. So when she got in, they asked her, do you declare anything? Nothing comes to mind, whatever. I don't know. I didn't get any, whatever. So she gets randomly searched, and she hadn't declared that apple. So she was fined $500. A criminal over a piece of fruit. I mean, firstly, there should be no declaration on one piece of fruit. I don't care what it, sorry. It's just silly. So the customs agent, obviously sarcastic, unforgiving. They make comments. I know this from personal experience of things I've done, not saying from custom agents, but in my life when I was younger, when I got pulled over from cops, always some snide remark. Like, if you're just going to give me a ticket, give me the ticket, So here it is. They're giving this lady a $500 fine, and they're asking her if her trip for France was expensive. Yeah, it was. You just added another $500 onto it, right? So this lady actually gets she becomes a low-risk traveler, or no, she becomes an unlow-risk traveler. So now she has to actually take more time so she can get searched more often, and she'll have more problems whenever she flies. Now, sad. And then Delta said it expects all customers, this is their statement, they expect all customers to follow U.S. Customs and Border Protection protocols, and all agricultural products must be declared. So, I mean, Delta even just, I don't know, why would you even say that? It's just, you're almost spitting on your customer. Why wouldn't you come out and say something like, if I'm Delta, I'd be like, it's an unfortunate accident. We gave her the apple. She probably didn't think about it. We're sorry if there was anything we could have done, or, I mean, obviously there are rules, but this is kind of a unique situation, and we wish they could just, help her out with this. I mean, why say we expect every customer to follow the rule? Yeah, she's a rule breaker. Oh my God, an apple. I mean, would it be $200 if she just had decor, like in Joe Dirt when he asked, "Are you done with that yet?" Maybe it's only $200 fine if she just had decor. I don't know. I mean, I guess somebody could tell me, but it's just pretty pathetic statement by a company. I mean, where do these people get their bedside manners, as they say for a doctor? And a pretty pathetic story. You're gonna $500 fine, no, ridiculous story. Let's see. We had the Fresno professor with the big flower in her hair. Now, everybody knows what she said about Bush dying and the just classless comments. I mean, yeah, there are a few people that I know that if they died, I think the world would be better off. But I mean, one, there are people that have committed atrocities, and two, I don't know. Even then, I don't know if I'd even comment on those people. And now here you're talking about Barbara Bush, who, yeah, I mean, if you didn't like her, you didn't like her, but she really, not like she really did much of, anything wrong. I mean, she was who she was, Some people say she's a really good lady. I mean, nobody really who knew her said anything nasty about her. It's not like, she was actually always nice to Secret Service from what we hear, unlike other people. But, putting that aside, there's a video of the professor from Fresno State who, Rhonda Jahar, that she praises hijackers and calls for acts of domestic terrorism against specific individuals. And she thinks Trump supporters are effing stupid. But this is what you have teaching in the schools. And these people, with just how they are, with the language that they use, just the way they are, they're not going to teach your kids with any decency in class. As a teacher, your job is to stir up, to let people have ideas, let them ferment, let the ideas come about. You're supposed to help kids think when you're teaching in the schools, not program them. And even if, everybody knows I'm on one side of the fence, but even if a student agrees with me, I'll ask them a question, play devil's advocate, ask them a question from the other side of the fence, because you want them to think, you want them to know, you want that kid to be stronger, you want them to be able to argue both sides. And it's better, I like to be challenged like that, because I think it's better if I can't defend my point, then maybe my point's not right. And people always tell me, well, you think you're always right. Well, if I thought I was wrong, I wouldn't be saying something. So, of course, I think it's right. If you're saying things you think aren't right, then you're just not a very nice person or really dumb. So, of course, I say things I think are right, and that's why I want people to challenge me so I can defend it. And if I can't, I got to think about it. Or maybe you make a good point, and maybe I'll change. Most situations are fluid. You learn more facts, or you see another point that you can't see. It's like you going to a place and you coming through a different door, you see something different, or somebody's with you and they say, hey, look at that. You see something that your eyes are already programmed and you pass through. And that's what it is as a teacher. You're supposed to help these kids see all the sides, and they make their own opinion. You're not pushing them one way. You're letting them think. You're cultivating them. You're making them smarter, but you're not forcing them into a box. So, of course, we have the Fresno professor, as we just talked about, and in other California news, because California can't be a one story and done. It's amazing. So this is a story that it's a few months old now, but I don't think I went over this when it happened. Pretty amazing, though. So we had a judge, yes, a California judge, cut a pedophile's prison term, claiming that a 3-year-old, yes, 3-year-old, asked to be raped. So he slashed 15 years off of the prison sentence of a pedophile convicted of raping a 3-year-old child. This was in Orange County. Judge M. Mark Cali. So he cut the rapist's prison term down to 10 years from 15, claiming he didn't mean to harm the 3-year-old girl he raped. Terminated. terminated. That's it. That's all you need to know about the judge. Should be terminated. Like, how is that even possible that you could? How could he even say that with a straight face? They didn't mean to harm. I mean, you can't even intellectually say. You couldn't intellectually say that in any way that you didn't mean to harm a 3-year-old that you raped. Like, physically, you're harming them. Mentally, you're going to be harming them. You're going to be harming their family mentally. Like, I don't understand how a judge could say that in any sense that you didn't mean to harm them. Besides cutting their sentence down, besides saying that. And you hear this from judges sometimes, like, it's a victim's fault or something. Crazy nonsense. Especially a kid that young has no knowing of anything of that matter. I mean, just forever changing their life. Just, wow. Unbelievable. So we had Starbucks in the news, of course, with their day of diversity and no coffee and no restroom, all that junk, blah, 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 and getting people arrested. You look back, though, in Starbucks history, and, I mean, remember the times where police officers were refused, uniformed police officers in Philadelphia, same Starbucks area, same Starbucks, were refused the use of a restroom. So here does somebody protecting your streets, and no, you can't use it. But yet, nobody had this big hup-de-doo. Starbucks didn't care less. They didn't, we're going to close down, we're going to teach people this and that, and we're going to have diversity. No, nobody cared less. I mean, look at the double standard there. Not saying that Starbucks, one, they shouldn't close down. They shouldn't be giving reparation coffees. Starbucks should just fire poorly managers or look at themselves and think, were they poorly trained? But at a management level, you got to have enough common sense to know not a good idea to get the police involved for something that little. There's no need, because one, the cops will stop coming to your place quickly, and two, you're just creating a bigger scene. It's not worth it, It's really not worth it at the end of the day. I understand you want people to buy something, but at the end of the day, it's not really worth it. Plus, you got to remember, it's your community, your customer. So maybe they're not a customer today. Maybe they will be tomorrow. Maybe they were a customer. Maybe they bought 50. Who knows? Some battles are not worth it. Project Veritas, everybody knows James O'Keefe. He does great work with the hidden videos, from Acorn to voting fraud to selling baby parts. Well, my friends, in the next week, he will have some more videos coming up about corrupt officials, and we can't wait to see them. It'll be an exciting day when those come out. I can't wait. It is very exciting when James O'Keefe releases his videos. There's always some fun on it. And then people trying to sue him. How dare him get honesty out of people? How dare him? He's not a real reporter. He's getting honesty out of people. Stop Project Veritas. So that'll be fun. It'll be interesting. I can't wait to see these videos. I mean, just the work that his people and him do is just amazing. To go undercover and convince people and sit there too and listen to it and be that calm and be like, oh yeah, and play the part. Like, that part I couldn't do. I mean, it's like crank phone calls, I have great lines that I could say. I remember when I was younger, and me and my friends would be like, yeah, let's call someone crank phone. You're a little kid and you do that stuff back in the day, and I couldn't say anything because I'd start cracking up. So I'd have my friend do the call, and I could say, hey, say this will sound funny. And they all sound funny, but I couldn't do it because I'd crack up. And that would be like, if I was doing the James O'Keefe, I worked for Project Veritas, and I was in there undercover and listening to people, either I'd be cracking up or I'd be telling them how stupid they were, and I'd blow my cover because I just couldn't deal with that. It's just insanity. Now, we have sanctuary cities are always in the news. So Democrats always say how sanctuary cities are there to protect people, to protect. Well, it's funny. There's been the Department of Homeland Security released a map a while back, and it talks about some sanctuary cities, and it's over a year ago, but it talks about how many gang members are released due to sanctuary city policies. So, I mean, basically, we have gang members on the streets, 140 across the U.S. in about a 6-month period of time, 6 to 7 month period of time. 140 gang members were put back on the U.S. streets from places like Arizona, New Mexico, Texas, California, which a majority of them were California, like 89 of them, New Jersey, Maryland, Rhode Island, New York, Minnesota, Washington, Oregon, and I'm sure there are many more this year. But this is the sanctuary city policies. So that's like that commercial back in the day, and it said, who grew up wanting to be a drug dealer? Now it's, who says they want more gang members on the streets? Does anybody say that? Oh, I guess people who run sanctuary cities do. But they don't even say that. They try to hide and make sure say it's something else. Now, let's end this segment, an hour, because we're commercial free here on the Reality Check. But let's wrap it up with a classic story that we've turned liberal. And this was pretty interesting. I read this today, so I like it, so I will read it to you. Little Red Riding Hood, who lived on the edge of a large forest full of endangered owls and rare plants that would probably be a cure or provide a cure for cancer if someone took the time to study them. Now, Red Riding Hood lived with a nurturer giver, whom she sometimes referred to as a mother, although she didn't mean to imply by this term that she would have thought less of the person if a close biological link did not in fact exist. Nor did she intend to denigrate the equal value of non-traditional households, although she was sorry if this was the impression conveyed. Now, one day, her mother asked her to take a basket of organically grown fruit and mineral water to her grandma's house. But mother, won't this be stealing work from the unionized people who have struggled for years to earn the right to carry all the packages between various people in the woods? Red Riding Hood's mother assured her that she had called the union boss and gotten special compassion mission exemption form. But mother, aren't you oppressing me by ordering me to do this? Red Riding Hood's mother pointed out that it was impossible for women to oppress each other, since all women were equally oppressed until all women are free. But mother, then shouldn't you have my brother carry the basket, since he's an oppressor, and should learn what it's like to be oppressed? Little Red Riding Hood's mother explained that her brother was attending a special rally for animals' rights. And besides, this wasn't stereotypical women's work, but an empowering deed that would help engender a feeling of community. But wouldn't I be oppressing Grandma by implying that she's sick and hence unable to independently further her own selfhood? But Red Riding Hood's mother explained that her grandmother wasn't actually sick or incapacitated or mentally handicapped in any way. Although that was not to imply that any of these conditions were inferior to what some people called health, thus Red Riding Hood felt that she could get behind the idea of delivering the basket to her grandmother, and so she set off. Many people believed the forest was foreboding and a dangerous place, but Red Riding Hood knew that this was an irrational fear based on cultural and instilled by a patriotic... Gosh, I read that wrong. A society that regarded the natural world as an exploitable resource and hence believed the natural predators were in fact intolerable competitors. Other people avoided the woods for fear of thieves and deviants, but Red Riding Hood felt that in a truly classless society, all marginalized people would be able to come out of the woods and be accepted as valid lifestyle role models. On her way to Grandma's house, Red Riding Hood passed a woodchopper and wandered off the path in order to examine some flowers. She was startled to find herself standing before a wolf, who asked her what was in her basket. Red Riding Hood's teacher had warned her never to talk to strangers, but she was confident in taking control of her own budding sexuality and chose to dialogue with the wolf. She replied, "I'm taking my grandmother some healthful snacks in a gesture of solidarity." The wolf said, "You know, my dear, it isn't safe for a little girl to walk through these woods alone." Red Riding Hood said, "I find your sexist remark offensive in the extreme, but I will ignore it because of your traditional status as an outcast from society, the stress of which has caused you to develop an alternative and yet entirely valid worldview. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'd prefer to be on my way." Red Riding Hood returned to the made path and proceeded towards her grandma's house. But because of his status outside society, the freedom from slavish adherent to the linear Western-style thought, the wolf knew of a quicker route to Grandma's house. He burst into the house and ate Grandma, a course of action affirmative of his nature as a predator. Then, unhampered by the rigid traditional gender role models, he put on Grandma's night clothes, crawled under the bedclothes, and awaited developments. Red Riding Hood entered the cottage and said, "Grandma, I have brought you some cruelty-free snacks to salute you as a nurturing matriarch." The wolf said softly, "Come closer, child, so I might see you." Red Riding Hood said, "Goodness, Grandma, what big eyes you have. You forget that I'm optically challenged? And Grandma, what a fine nose you have. Naturally, I could have it fixed to help my acting career, but I didn't give in to such societal pressures, my child. And Grandma, what very big and sharp teeth you have." The wolf could not take any more of these specific slurs, and in a reaction appropriate for his custom, he leaped out of bed, grabbed Little Red Riding Hood, and opened his jaws so wide that he could see her poor grandmother cowering in his belly. "Are you forgetting something?" Red Riding Hood bravely shouted. "You must request my permission before proceeding to a new level of intimacy." The wolf was so startled by the statement that he loosened his grasp on her. At the same time, the woodchopper burst into the cottage, brandishing an axe. "Hands off!" cried the woodchopper. "Well, what do you think you're doing?" cried Little Red Riding Hood. "If I let you help me now, I would be expressing a lack of confidence in my own abilities, which would lead to poor self-esteem and lower achievement scores on my college entrance exams." "Last chance, sister. Get your hands off that endangered species. This is an FBI sting," screamed the woodchopper, and when Little Red Riding Hood nonetheless made a sudden motion, he sliced her head. "Thank goodness you got here in time," said the wolf. "The brat and her grandmother lured me in here. I thought I was a goner." "No, I think I'm a real victim here," said the woodchopper. "I've been dealing with my anger ever since I saw her picking those protected flowers, and now I'm going to have such trauma. Do you have any aspirin?" "Sure," said the wolf. "Thanks." "I feel your pain," said the wolf, as he patted the woodchopper on his firm, well-padded back, gave a little belch, and said, "Do you have any Maalox?" So there, my friends, is our story, a classic story of Red Riding Hood turned into a modern liberal story. And as they say, liberalism is a mental disorder. And I guess you've had enough of me for this week. Till next week on the Reality Check, have a great week, and we'll keep you updated.